Alright guys, Dominic here for Kit Guru, and today we're actually talking about one of my favourite topics, and that is headphones. You may remember about a year ago I did a video looking at 3 kind of entry-level audiophile headphones. They were the kind of thing you might be looking to buy if you wanted to step up from your gaming headset, for instance. Well, since then, it's safe to say my journey into the headphone world has come a long way, and today we're going to be looking at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, looking at not only Sennheiser's flagship headphone, the HD800S, but also Sennheiser's flagship amplifier, which is the HDV820. Now, the first thing to note about both of these products is they do not come cheap, not by one bit. The headphones, the HD800S, actually retails for £1,399 just for the headphones alone, whereas if you want to buy the amplifier as well, this baby is going to set you back £2,099. That obviously makes this combo nearly £3,500 worth of audio gear, so it's certainly not for the faint heart, and it's certainly for those with deep pockets. However, as they say, you do get what you pay for, and I'm going to start with the headphones, and we'll get to the HDV820 later. But honestly, the only way I can describe the HD800S is absolutely mind-blowing. The first thing you'll notice is just how clear the sound is. HD800S actually makes other headphones sound like you're listening to your music underwater. In actual fact, I had a friend over the other day, he put the HD800 on, listened for a few seconds, big smile came on his face and just said, "It's so clear." It's that clarity which comes from the incredibly detailed treble. Now, I've previously used the HD700, which is a kind of £400 headphone, and while it was very detailed, it was quite peaky. The treble was quite fatiguing, so it just sounded a bit sharp, and after an hour or two of use, you couldn't really listen to it any longer. What the HD800S does, however, is retain an immense amount of detail, which gives you that clarity. However, it does it in a very smooth way. There's no kind of harsh peaks or any sibilance or anything like that. Instead, what you get is a very kind of easy on the ear sound, which still retains an immense amount of detail. And I know people say this a lot, and I always thought, it's nonsense, but I have genuinely heard elements of music and elements of different songs which I'd never heard before when I started listening with the HD800S. It is just such a fantastic experience. It's a smooth treble, but it is insanely, insanely detailed. There's also the mid-range to talk about, and this is again very clean, very clear. It's quite a transparent mix. It really emphasizes female vocals, for instance. I wouldn't say it's a hugely intimate in your face kind of mid-range, but it's just very clean and clear, and I'd say accurate. It doesn't sound, kind of overemphasized to the point of being slightly artificial. It's just an incredibly accurate and transparent sound. Now, moving on to the bass, the HD800S certainly isn't a bass head headphone. You really don't need to spend anywhere near this money if you kind of just want the thumping bass. You can get something like Beats, which will do that for, £100 or £200. But what you get with the 800S is a really kind of clean and well-balanced bass. It's not overbearing, but it provides the perfect amount of low-end energy to complement the really detailed high-end and the clear mid-range. So while the bass isn't, kind of massive in your face, what it does give is excellent sub-bass extension, and this is really how kind of deep and how far those low-end frequencies can go. Recently I was actually listening to the Dark Knight soundtrack, which is something I really like if I want something a bit more edgy, a bit more kind of intense. And with the HD800S, the bass really creates a really nice atmospheric kind of, as I mentioned, edgy sound, which really engages you with the soundtrack. However, when I listened with the HD700, which is slightly weaker on the bass side of things, the extension isn't really there, it sounded a bit anemic in comparison, so it really is a win for the HD800S and its sub-bass, which just balances out the sound of music or soundtracks, whatever you're listening to, really, really well. Having said that though, by far and away my favourite thing about the HD800S is the immense Soundstage. This is just kind of, you put the headphones on and then suddenly it feels like you're right in the middle of a concert hall. You are absolutely surrounded by all the different instruments, everything you can hear. It might be like kind of you've got one instrument kind of closer on your left hand side and another instrument's coming from the opposite corner a lot further away. The headphone just creates an absolutely incredible immersive kind of surround feeling where you can pick out all the individual layers of your music and it all feels like it's coming from a completely different area of the mix. It is just simply incredible. It's one of those things I'd really recommend it. If you get a chance to listen to these, just do it, because the Soundstage is phenomenal. It's something I've never really experienced before I tried the HD800S. For instance, as I mentioned, I've been using the HD660S, and that's a much darker, much closer kind of sound. So you really don't get the kind of atmospheric, immersive kind of all around you kind of thing. And surprisingly, it actually works really well for gaming, and I'm not sure how many people are actually using the HD800S for gaming. It's obviously not their intended purpose, but for games like PUBG, actually, the Soundstage, as I mentioned, allows you to really accurately pinpoint where people are. For instance, I might be downstairs in a house and I can hear someone coming from outside the building all the way around, and it just really works just for kind of pinpointing the position of different players. So for me personally, I know I can say I'm actually going to be using these headphones whenever I play solo PUBG in the future. So that's it for the headphones really. I really like them, as I'm sure you can tell. But what about the HDV 820? What can this £2,100 amplifier bring to the table? Well, the first thing to talk about is, of course, the law of diminishing returns. This obviously doesn't just affect audio gear, but it's essentially the idea when you start paying more and more, you eventually get a slightly less and less increase of performance the further you go. So at £2,100, this amplifier isn't going to offer 10 times the performance of a £210 DAC amp combo, for instance. But what you do get with the HDV 820 is not only, I think, good looks, sleek, minimalistic good looks, really good build quality as well, but you get a really clean, kind of neutral and clear sound which complements the HD800S really well. In actual fact, that's kind of the reason the HDV 820 exists. It's designed to complement Sennheiser's high-end flagship headphones, which of course is the HD800S. Before I switched to the HDV 820, I was actually using the Shit Audio, and yep, that is the company's name, Shit Audio. I was using their Modi 2 Ag Magni 3 amplifier and DAC combo. Now that cost around just over £200, which makes it actually almost exactly 10 times less than the HDV 820. And what that combo brings is a kind of slightly warmer and not necessarily dirty, but it's a slightly more kind of intense, or not necessarily distorted either. It's just not quite as clean. It has a bit more thump to the bass, but it doesn't present it in an as clean or as clear a manner. And that is what the HDV 820 excels at. It just matches with the HD800S perfectly. It's quite a neutral amplifier, I'd say, but it really allows you to get the best from the detail and a really clear mid-range from the HD800S. It won't be for everyone. If you want a kind of more character, a bit more warmth to your headphones, you might want to try a tube amp, but for the HD800S, the HDV 820 makes a really good partner. There's also a wealth of output options to choose from. On the front, the first port is actually a quite interesting 3-pin XLR input, which is combined with a 1/4-inch jack. So you'll be able to use any headphones that terminate in either a 3-pin XLR or a 1/4-inch jack with that single port, which is quite interesting. Next to that, we also have a balanced 4-pin XLR output, and then other than that, there's two 4.4mm pentagon connectors, which are balanced 5-pole connectors. That's interesting because that connector actually comes with the HD660S in the box, so I've been using that to listen to the HD660S with this amplifier. And so that's it for the outputs, and there's also this little input dial here, and that lets you choose between a very wide range of different inputs. I've been using mine over USB with the amp sat on my desk connected to my PC over a USB cable, but you can also choose from balanced XLR in, there's optical, there's coaxial, there's RCA. So you can connect a ton of different inputs and you can choose between them on the fly using this little dial, which is really nice. And the last thing to mention on the front is the really solid feeling volume wheel. Now, because there are 4 different output options, I got a bit interested. I thought, what would happen if I connected 2 headphones at once? Perhaps maybe the amp wouldn't be powerful enough to drive them both, and they might start to feel a little bit weak. You wouldn't get as full as sound. So I connected the HD800S as well as my HD660S, and honestly, the sound was fantastic. I couldn't even tell that there was a different headphone plugged in, to the point where if I was wearing one and I unplugged the other, it would sound exactly the same, and that just goes to show how much power the HDV 820 has to drive not only one headphone but another pair of headphones as well. So that about wraps up for my look at the flagship headphone from Sennheiser as well as their flagship HDV 820 amplifier. As I mentioned, this combination will cost you just around £3,500 in the UK, so it is really not for the faint of heart. However, if you do have the cash to splash, you just get an absolutely incredibly detailed sound. It's so clean, so pure. I really like it, and it's just so easy to get lost in your music. I've been using the headphones for about 2 months now, and I've been using the amp probably for about a month within that, and I just love the combination. It's obviously not cheap, but if you really want to take your audio gear seriously, I really recommend the HD800S with the HDV 820 amp. The sound is just phenomenal. You have an immense, epic soundstage, and it just sounds so good. So I'm Dominic for Kit Guru. This has been our look at the HD800S with the HDV 820 amp. If you like this video, you can give us a thumbs up. You can also leave us a comment below and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell icon as well to be notified about all of our future videos. Lastly, we would love to chat with you on Facebook and Twitter as well. But until then, I will see you in the next video.